Coming up on AFL tonight, the Demons' drought is over. Now attention turns to creating a dynasty. And the Western Bulldogs left to pick up the pieces. We'll bring you all the grand final fallout. Hello and welcome to AFL Tonight. I'm Drew Jones. Great to have your company. The Melbourne Demons are the 2021 AFL premiers, defeating the Western Bulldogs on Saturday night by 74 points in a wonderful spectacle at Optus Stadium. The whole club have been celebrating, understandably, in Perth, but on AFL Tonight, we're already plotting the Demons' next move. Let's bring in the Herald Sun's John Ralph to help us do that. John, great to see you. Melbourne, the best team all year, and it had an ominous sort of feel to it on Saturday night, didn't it? Are we set for a D dynasty?
Hello, Drew. Great to be with you. I think if they only secured the one premiership in the next 3 or 4 years, they absolutely would have left, well, one or potentially even two on the table. I spoke to Glenn Bartlett, the Melbourne president, who handed over that presidency halfway through the year today. And he said, look, the list build was always about that period from 2021 to 2024. So he said, it's not that we've necessarily dragged one early. It was the first year of that potential window open, but now they absolutely need to cash in. Why does the dynasty await? Well, look at the stars that they have who have only scratched the surface and are contracted for a very long time. Christian Petracca, 2029. Christian Salem, 2026. Clayton Oliver, 23. Jack Viney, 2025. Jake Lever, 2024. So the massive priority over the summer will be to sign up their senior coach, who's done such wonderful things this year. As Chief Executive Gary Pert told me over the weekend, he said, we literally haven't even had time to scratch ourselves. Been so busy over the last 5 weeks wondering about where we're going to train. You know, are we in lockdown or not? And so he said that absolutely will come in the next couple of months. Now, the real positive for Goodwin is not the extension. That was always going to come, even if they'd lost the grand final. It's just the position of strength to negotiate from. You know, you don't have to negotiate a 6-month contract payout or even 3 months. You can negotiate about bonuses and without specific conditions. And so he will get his extension, and he absolutely deserves it. Now, on the trade front, Jack Melksham, well, he's a player who might potentially be looking at a new home if he can find a suitor. It's hard to see how he cracks back into that side. Michael Hibbert, after a great grand final and a really strong second half of the year, will sign another 1-year contract. Now, next year, Bayley Fritsch is out of contract. Luke Jackson is out of contract. And so I don't know how they fit these two blokes into their contracts, into the salary cap. Good luck haggling with those guys after their grand final performances. Now, Gary Pert says they want to make upwards of $2 million a year of profit from the last 6 weeks. He said it's just been so extraordinary in terms of the merchandise and the memorabilia that they've been able to sell. They want to turn into a very big Melbourne club, though. He says big MCG crowds, 60 and 70,000 averages. They want membership of up to 70,000 in coming years. And so to do that, well, you need to be a contender for the next 3 or 4 years. And I certainly think they'll be able to do that. We always talk about the teams going back to back, but I truly think Melbourne's a club that potentially can carve out a dynasty.
Yep, they're on the rise, that's for sure, Ralphie. So great season by the Dogs, despite the fade out on Saturday night. Looks like we'll see some changes, though, on and off the field.
Yeah, that's right. All is not lost from a positional and from a on-field perspective next year. We know that they will challenge again. But they will lose Patrick Lipinski to the Collingwood Football Club. Now, Mitch Wallace, their vice-captain, there are varying reports about whether he's actually been specifically offered a deal. I can tell you that the Dogs certainly want to retain him. There doesn't seem to be a massive amount of interest out there in regards to him, so that's something in the next couple of weeks that we'll assess. Now, despite the reports today that Lipinski potentially could get to Collingwood in the pre-season draft, the Dogs would lose him for nothing. Look, I don't think players want that kind of uncertainty. They certainly don't want to wait until late November to get into that national or pre-season draft. They certainly don't want their club of choice to get them for nothing when their previous club would basically be screwed over in regards to that. And so, look, I think they'll get that done for a later pick. Now, the Dogs will lose their assistant coach in Stephen King to the Gold Coast. They'll potentially lose Ash Hansen to Geelong. But, you know, fresh ideas, that's not necessarily a bad thing for Luke Beveridge. He's contracted to 2023. They'll get a massive pre-season out of Jamara Ugle-Hagan that they didn't necessarily get last summer. And then Luke Darcy's son, Sam, will come in as a father-son. He is going to be a heck of a player. It may well take him 3 or 4 years to play regular senior football. But as one recruiter said to me today, he moves like Ben King and like Max King, but he's 204 centimetres. He can play key back, he can play key forward, he can even play in the ruck. So, look, it's going to take some time for him to develop, but he's just going to be a mighty, mighty player. And they didn't lose too many admirers despite a really ugly last 45 minutes of their season.
This one will be a big one.
So Melbourne's drought-breaking premiership was bittersweet for fan Fraser McFarlane. He couldn't attend the grand final and he couldn't watch the match with his family. So he did the next best thing. He penned a cover song to cover Paul Kelly's classic as an ode to his loved ones and his beloved D's. How to Make Premiership Gravy has been an Instagram hit with 70,000 viewers so far.
Well, I've got a good mate, Jack Mack, who'd been speaking a lot during the week. He's a mad D's fan, and both of us, for different reasons, couldn't be with our dads to watch the game. So, yeah, we got together and started writing some lyrics to, one of the greatest Australian songs. And yeah, it went from there, and we just wanted to sort of tell the story of ourselves, but also to tell a story, to all Melburnians that couldn't be there and couldn't be with family members.
It's a story, a song and a sentiment that has resonated with Melbourne fans. So far, as many as 70,000 people have viewed McFarlane's cover, and that's a number that's continuing to grow.
Remember Flower, Steins, gone before their time. Don't forget Barassi and Danaher, living legends of yours and mine. Just imagine Goni tapping down to Clary. Then we're watching Viney lay a block for track. Was kicking down a causey, dancing on the boundary. Just don't hold it too long. We need a right foot snap from T-Man.
Growing up, you just hear all those stories especially for me, from my old man, of players gone by, and yeah, I think feeling loss is, it's obviously so hurtful, but it can make things so meaningful, and music's a great way to sort of share that emotion and just, connect with people.
Our hearts are beating for you, although we can't be with you.
Sarah Ollie, Fox Sports News.
Well done, Fraser. That was a ripper. All right, time to bring in our Monday regular for the last time this season, three-time All-Australian Nick Dal Santo. Dal, great to see you. The Demons are premiers in 2021. Sum it up for us.
Well, it's been an incredible journey, hasn't it, Drew? And I think it's more than just this year. And sometimes we do, I think, get caught up in this industry of just focusing on the last week or the last month or even what happened last year. And I mean, this story runs a lot deeper, clearly, for the Melbourne Football Club than just what we've seen this year, and in particular the last month. This has been a build-up over years. It may be even as far as a decade or so. And I just think the way that everybody, all the players and the coaching staff have spoken post-game, it's given us a really good indication and an opportunity to take a step back and see what football clubs are about. And I think we can all relate to it in some small way, whether it's local football, even if it's another sporting club, about what goes into being successful. And you have to take your hat off to them. I mean, this is a club that, 20-odd years ago, we're going to shut the doors and say, hey, we'll merge. We're happy to shut these doors and go in a different direction. And then just the joy. That's what I got out of it, Drew. Just the pure joy that they brought and are bringing to people's lives. It may change these people's lives forever, and that's pretty special.
Yeah, you talk about a story, and Christian Petracca is a great one. Tore his ACL, playing forward, probably not living up to his potential. He produces a midfield masterclass in a grand final. Where does he sit now in the AFL's elite?
Well, I think he was already in that category over the last 18 months or 2 years, even, about the way that he's taken his game to another level. And we hear the stories about having some firm conversations about, hey, Christian, you could be this particular player, not only for the Melbourne Football Club, but in the competition, and have a different standing. And you have to take your hat off to him as well. I mean, you've got to take that sort of feedback on board. Then you've got to go to work and put yourself in those situations day after day to prepare for moments like he did on Saturday night, and the way he started that game, the way he kicked that goal. I mean, just the raw power to be able to do that particular goal. And then he had another one, the dribbler from the boundary line late in the third quarter. But it's more than that. I mean, it's the leadership, it's the consistency, it's the dragging teammates along. And that's what this club's needed for a long time, is a collective effort to be better than what they had been. And he's at the top of the tree now. What a superb performance it was on Saturday night.
He was awesome. So how many goals did Bayley Fritsch need to kick in that grand final to usurp Petracca for the Norm Smith?
Well, Petracca was pretty handy. So to go on Petracca is the standard. So Fritsch must have had to have kicked about between 10 and 12 to pass him, I think. I mean, what a great player Fritsch has been. I think he was on 53 goals, something like that, going into Saturday night's game. that role that we've come to love now is that sort of hybrid forward. He can do a little bit of everything, knowing that he's got some other key forwards around him. He's such a difficult matchup. But the thing that separates him and maybe Ben Brown from a lot of other people in the competition, Drew, they kick the goals. They actually capitalise when they get their opportunities. And what a superb performance it was. 6 goals in a final. That's a good story for the rest of your life.
Yeah, he's a beautiful kicks, that's for sure. So if you can isolate a moment or, a few minutes where the game was won in the grand final, it's probably the D's astounding run on just before three-quarter time. Can you give us some tactical breakdown of how it all happened, Al?
Well, first of all, brilliant by the D's. Can't take anything away from them, but some diabolical setups at the centre square bounce for the Dogs. Now, this is my theory behind it. So clearly Luke Jackson was in the ruck, and I would have seen this as an opportunity for the Dogs, and I would have thought they would have spoken about this. When Luke Jackson is in the ruck and it's not Max Gawn, let's be more proactive. Let's be more aggressive, knowing that we could possibly get our hands to the football. But what they ultimately did was they gave up the cover. So they gave up the person at the back of the stoppage that was there as safety, so the D's could not run out the front of the stoppage and kick it forward to one-on-ones. And that person, time and time again, in that last 38 seconds where 3 goals were kicked in the end of the third quarter, wasn't in that correct position. It was multiple people at different times. Libba, Treloar, even Marcus Bontempelli had an opportunity to play a little bit safer, but they didn't do it, and ultimately it's cost them the game.
All right, so we've watched this rise from the Demons in 2021. Does this feel like the start of some sustained success?
It does. I mean, you sit here right now and you instantly think, well, who's going to beat them next year? Who is going to take their game? What other club's going to take their game to another level to be able to compete with what they've got? You look at the D's across all 3 lines. They haven't got many weak areas. And clearly, when you've had a performance in a year like they have, we know it starts with defence. Paul Roos openly said that 6 or 7 years ago when he went to the football club. They've got to build their defence. They go out and get 2 really good defenders from other clubs, which they got criticised for. Why would you spend that amount of money on key defenders? And we saw it all come to life on Saturday night. So we sit here right now, Drew, and you have to say they've got the majority, all the pieces that you need to be successful for a period of time. And who's going to really compete? So, I mean, a lot of things have to go right, but they're not missing much right now, are they?